The empty chair was a ghost at the table. It was placed, as it always had been, between her father and her brother, Noah. But for the first time in 35 years, it wasn't occupied by a person. It was just a space, a hollow reminder of the person who wasn't there. Rachel. The mahogany dining table gleamed under the soft light of the chandelier, burdened with the usual Thanksgiving feast. A magnificent golden brown turkey, glazed with honey and herbs, sat at the center, surrounded by a constellation of side dishes. Candied yams, mashed potatoes swirled into a perfect peak, green bean casserole, and cranberry sauce that shimmered like rubies in a crystal bowl. The air was thick with the rich scent of sage, roasted poultry, and a hint of cinnamon from the apple pie cooling on the sideboard. It was a tableau of perfect, effortless family harmony, a scene ripped from the pages of a glossy magazine. Only it wasn't. "She'll come around," her mother, Eleanor, said, her voice a little too bright. She reached for the gravy boat, her hand trembling just a little. "She's just busy." "She's not busy, Eleanor," her father, David, grumbled, carving a perfect slice of white meat. "She's being childish. She knows what Thanksgiving means to this family." "She knows what it means to you," Noah said, his voice a low, sardonic hum from the head of the table. He was the golden boy, the beloved son, and he wore the title with the casual arrogance of a king. He hadn't looked at the empty chair once. Rachel felt a familiar, cold ache in her stomach as she imagined the scene. The subtle jabs, the passive-aggressive commentary, the way they would talk about her as if she were a problem to be solved, a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. She could almost hear the clinking of silverware and the hum of forced conversation. And she could see herself, a child of 5, sitting in that very room. The first time, she felt it was on her 5th birthday. She had been so excited. Her parents had promised a big surprise. She'd spent all morning watching the front door, bouncing on the balls of her feet, her small heart a hummingbird in her chest. Then Noah came home from school. He was 7, a whirlwind of energy and noise, and he'd brought a stray kitten home in his backpack. It was a scrawny, trembling ball of grey fluff with eyes like polished emeralds. The kitten had been mewling softly, and Noah, with his face smudged with dirt and a proud grin, had held it out to her parents. "Can we keep him? I found him behind the school dumpster." Rachel's parents had gasped, not with dismay, but with a rush of tender, loving concern. Her mother, Eleanor, knelt down, her face soft with pity. "Oh, Noah, you poor thing. You must have been so worried about him." Her father, David, just clapped him on the shoulder, a proud, booming laugh filling the kitchen. "That's my boy. Always looking out for the little guy." The kitten, whom Noah instantly named Scamp, was the center of attention for the rest of the day. They got a little cat bed, a bowl, a bag of food. Rachel's birthday cake, a beautiful vanilla creation with pink icing, sat untouched on the counter. The big surprise was forgotten. No one noticed the way her shoulders slumped, or the way her lower lip trembled as she watched them fuss over the new pet. Later, in her room, her mother had come in with a small, wrapped box. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she'd said, her voice gentle but distracted. "I'm sorry it got a little crazy today. You know how your brother is." The gift was a book about butterflies. Rachel had smiled and said thank you, and her mother had left, already talking about taking Scamp to the vet. Rachel had just stared at the book, its brightly colored cover a stark contrast to the gray feeling in her heart. She wasn't mad at the kitten. She wasn't even mad at Noah. She was just invisible. That feeling of invisibility became a constant companion. It was in the way her parents would interrupt her to praise Noah's latest soccer goal, or his perfect math test score. It was in the way her teachers would call her Noah's little sister, and smile knowingly, as if her identity were a footnote to his. When she won the middle school science fair with her meticulously researched project on the effects of acid rain on plant life, her parents had been polite, but unimpressed. "That's nice, honey," her mother had said. "Did you see Noah's report card? Straight A's. His a natural." When Noah, in a fit of teenage angst, had skipped school and broken his curfew, her parents had been frantic with worry, not anger. "He's going through a phase," her father had said, his face etched with a kind of noble suffering. "We just have to be there for him." Rachel had started her first job at the local library that same week. She'd saved up for a new camera, her first real one, and had taken a breathtaking series of photos of the sunset over the lake. She'd brought them home to show her family, a small, fragile piece of herself to share. She found her father and Noah in the garage, hunched over a sputtering lawnmower. "Dad, look," she'd said, her voice a little too loud in her excitement. "I got a new camera. And I took these." He hadn't even looked up. "Not now, Rachel. Noah's having a tough time with this engine. We need to focus." The camera felt heavy in her hands. The photos, once so vibrant and full of promise, now seemed dull and lifeless. She had turned and walked back into the house, the sound of her father and brother's voices fading behind her. High school was a battlefield of silent expectations. For Noah, it was a stage. He was the star quarterback, the prom king, the charming boy with a smile that could disarm anyone. For Rachel, it was a blur of trying to find a corner where she wasn't just Noah's little sister. Her interests were a quiet rebellion. While he was out on the football field, she was in the darkroom, the faint smell of chemicals clinging to her clothes, as she watched her photos bloom to life in the developer. She spent hours with the school newspaper, writing articles that delved into the complex realities of their small town, not just the surface-level stories of Friday night lights. Her small victories were her own secret treasures. When she won the State Journalism Award for her exposé on the high school's outdated library system, she didn't even bother to tell her parents until the last minute. She knew what their reaction would be. "That's wonderful, honey," her mother said, her eyes already scanning the living room for signs of Noah's imminent arrival. "We're so proud of you. I'm just so nervous about Noah's big game tonight. Did you see his knee brace? I told him to be careful." And just like that, her achievement was absorbed into the white noise of her brother's life. It wasn't a lack of love, she understood that even then. It was a lack of attention, of space. Their love for Noah was a blazing sun, and she was a small moon, orbiting its heat, only ever visible in the brief, rare moments when the light shifted. This constant undercurrent of being second best seeped into every aspect of her life. She found herself subconsciously dimming her own light, convinced that she was uninteresting, unimportant. This insecurity was a shadow she carried with her into adulthood. Her first serious relationship, with a kind and steady man named Liam, was a casualty of this. He saw her, truly saw her. He praised her sharp wit, her keen eye for detail, the way her photos captured a city's hidden soul. But his love was a spotlight, and she had spent her whole life in the dark. She couldn't believe his praise. She constantly questioned his motives, convinced that he was just being nice, that he would eventually see what her family had always seen, a lesser version of her brother. She would subtly test him, pushing him away with small, cutting remarks, waiting for him to confirm her deepest fears.